Hello and welcome. Time for a bonus video, and I never planned on doing this many, but I guess the market conditions are doing such. And I have been talking about putting two coins together. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my advanced strategy amongst Litecoin and DGB. But before we get there, I have an alert on the Binance. I've deposited some Litecoin from my hardware wallet to the exchange, trying to make a sell here. On the daily chart, this is right now where my order is. I mean, I would take 17.5, 17.6 right now. And it all depends on what it does with that of Komodo as well, as that's what I'm going to be cross trading that with, not as aggressively as I'm doing DGB and Litecoin, but enough where it's fun to do. It's a game. It's numbers game, literally. So therefore, when it gets there, sell some Litecoin and then buy some Komodo. And the bonus video is going to talk about just how I just got the most basic of spreadsheets. I'm not good at designing them to look good, which is why I refuse to really make them for people. Rather explain how I make them instead. And in here, what I did is I just copied and pasted my last, this probably would have been my last dash theta trade. And I put today's date in, because I'm going to make my first Komodo Litecoin trade here pretty soon. When I decided to cross trade these, the ratio was 59. I ended up buying the amount of Komodo needed for me because the price to that's when Komodo went down. I'm like, okay, Komodo just went down. I want to buy some, and let's now just cross them together. Ratio is 59, so once it gets down to like around 49 or up to around 71, then we're going to do it. But as the ratio stands, there's still a good 1.7 basis point differential. 2 point something percent. So that's why I'm just in the wait and trying to see either Litecoin with a good gain or Komodo with a decent decline along the way. And then I'll sell my Litecoin for Bitcoin. My Bitcoin will then buy Komodo. I'll enter in the amount of Litecoin, and it's not going to be this number. And then I'll enter in the amount of Komodo that I get, and this will automatically do the price calculation for me. So I'll just wait and see for that one. And there's a whole bunch. I got Namecoin, NLC2, which is crossed with DGB, Litecoin crossed with Bitcoin, Vericoin crossed with Bitcoin, Doji crossed with Bitcoin, DGB crossed with Litecoin, and Dash crossed with Theta. This is my big one of all of them, other than Litecoin against Bitcoin. So it's just as it's because Litecoin is my big holding. I can just do this big, and I said, let's go aggressive in this DGB game. So I just made, and I don't know how I got the exact same price. I am flabbergasted because this was literally 15 minutes apart. I don't know how that happened. I really, I was going to say to this day, I don't know, but to the second, I don't know. This was an hour change ago. On February the 28th, I made the decision to play. I took 2.93 on whatever my Litecoin that I had. It was just really what I had on the exchange at the time, I think. And it was just, yeah, that works out to be a good number. I got 12,000 additional at 42. So I do short term, long term. So what I do is I manually put the last trade in here, and then it calculates this for a buy and sell. It does a 15% short term move on either direction. So from this point on, around 5,000 or 66 change is my next trade. And it's going to be getting this, it's either going to be a buyback on here or probably selling one Litecoin for what would be about 6,600 DGB. And I'll talk about that just a little bit, why it's one. If you should be able to figure this out already, is based on this little number trend here. And then for the long term, this is multiply on the sell times 1.4, and the equivalency is 714 on the inverse. And I deal with larger numbers there. So it's already went from 42 start to 57. That's a or 43 to 58 in that area. That's a 15-point differential, so you can see how that was close to 40%. So my trigger came in to sell. I did a little shorter. This was supposed to be like 58, I think, and this was supposed to be 56 or whatever. In fact, and then after this, what I'll do is I'll manually put these numbers here. So earlier today, I manually put 4 new numbers in. Now, what would happen is if, say, for example, I would make my next trade. Okay, let's assume, and I'm hoping, right now I am hoping DGB just starts pumping at this stage, but the market does what it does. And let's just assume that happens and Litecoin either goes sideways or barely goes down, or even takes its normal retracement down. That's just as fine with me, actually. In fact, even better. But anyway, throwing that aside, let's assume that, although better as long as I get my Komodo trade first, it would be better on the decline. But yeah, anyway. Let's just assume I get the short-term decline to 50.20. Let's assume it's 5,000 easy. Why did I said that word twice in a row. That's why it's better to write it down and read it, but I can't do that and actually think. I literally don't. I mean, I've done it before, but it's not fun to do. Just the regular flow talking I like better, knowing that I'm going to talk about this subject in this order. And now going on with my subject talk. So I would have bought at 5,000. So what I would do here is I would manually I'd make the trade. And what I would do is I would be like, okay, I'm making this one back. So why don't I just pull about like, I don't know, 56, 5,700 or so of my DGB and take it from my hardware wallet to the exchange. And that's not going to take long. It's not going to take long. And I can super speed the movement, although it doesn't need it. It really is a coin on steroids, I think, and I love it that way. And then I would sell it on the market for Litecoin, and I would write in here negative the number that I'm putting in, and I would put in whatever I end up getting is what I would paste in here, and then I would copy and paste this to this. So on the 6, as we can see here, 59.49, the price went up to 49. Now this was just for number purposes because of something else. I had to like, oh, okay, I technically accidentally barely bought too much because of a small technicality that I've later fixed. So I just put in what the equivalency rate would have been, but I ended up taking 1.2 from my wallet to sell. And then I ended up having on the 11th, we see the ratio goes down, short-term order. So I took 54 from my wallet, and I ended up getting this, took that, and I sent that to my wallet. Next day, I took another 5,000 more, and I got another 1 1/3 more as it went down to 37. 3 days later, I took 1.3, so I kept 0.34 plus profit. And I ended up accumulating 55.86, and of course it's just been nothing more. And we can see in here, when I'm just slightly reducing these Litecoin, I'm slightly increasing what I get back. So 1.3 Litecoin got me 55.86, 1.2 got me almost 6, 1.1 got me a little nicer at 63.50. And as I can see here, if the short-term sell is 66.40 and I do 1, well, I'm going to do a little bit more again. So I'm going to do 1. And then if it keeps doing that, I'll go 0.9, maybe 0.82. And just keep on progressing as the message of the market, the message of the numbers comes into play. Now for this one, I'm going to buy this back at around 4,100-ish and anything lower. And I'll get a much better return on this trade. So therefore, what I would be doing on it going lower is I would take about 14,000 of these maybe to 15,000, 16, somewhere in that rare area. Probably about 14 to 15. And then see how many Litecoin I can buy. And then I'll just keep this in the color boost blue. So I'll pretty much copy and paste this just because it's got the font of the blue color only. The bold represents when the transactions have had its buyback. And one more thing of note, I'm just going to scroll this up. Or I won't. Why did it do? Okay, let me just, yeah, I know why I did that. And the reason why I did that is because of the formula. I could, technically I can only bring it up 2 spots, I think, max, because of what it's counting. So therefore, what this does is it counts everything from this point, not the original buy point, but from this point on. And it says what my total net transactions and average cost has been. So I've gotten, I have 5.5 less coins since I've done this journey. And I have gained 32,536 of the DGB at an average trade cost of what now is 5,912, which is obviously higher than the market's ever been since I've done it. If it keeps going higher, then this number is going to be like a moving average, where it's just going to start, this number will rise above it. Because I'll be selling at 7, 8, 9,000, this will go up to like, well, 6, 7,000 when the other's at 9 or something, whatever nature like that. On the inverse, and let's just write this in for fun. I'm going to save this first. And let's just assume that this goes down. Let's, and like I state, we do like say 5,800 in here. Let's just assume that the ratio we will do is, we got the short-term number is 43 for, or 5,000 we actually were saying, so let's just assume it was like 5,000. And that would mean that the ratio for that would be, okay, mental block in my head, and I should know this. You're doing normally this price divided by this price. So this divided by X equals 5,000. Actually be the opposite way. No, it wouldn't. It would be negative that way. Negative that way. My mind. That's what got me there. So in this spot, I would get back 1.16 Litecoin. So I would have gained 0.06, and I would gain like 550. And we can see here what would happen is the average would now go up to 61.55, and merely because of the reducing this. And let's just assume it works out very nicely for me that the combination of DGB rallying and or Litecoin going down, or not going up anywhere near as much as well, comes into play. So we have what we had last trade. Well, let's just assume we get another short-term one. We're still waiting for the, what's the short-term buy? Or the long-term buy? 41.22. We're still waiting for that one. But let's just assume that, well, we get them both here, actually. That could easily happen here. You get one of those, and let's just assume you get one of those awesome days. And that's going to have to be centered at some point, but we'll make that some point now. Will we want to take care of this one? Or this one here, rather? So last time it was 5,972. Okay, so maybe 500, but it's actually a bit better. We're supposed to do a 43.48. We're getting 39.77 because some sick 10% move happened all at once, whatever, or from the time you noticed. So I can even do a little less than that. Let's just see what 5,100 would do on that situation. 51 or 5,000 even. Except you need to do negative, of course, because we'd be selling them. Copy and paste this, and I would get 1.25, which would mean a gain of 1.2. And I could even sell a little bit more, say 52.25, and get even a much gain. We'll just do minus 5,100 because that to me would look like probably what I would like to do on that type of ratio, actually. And now we got this big one. I love this, getting the major trade back. So we had 19,000. So what would say 14,000 do? And if I were to say copy and paste this down, it would be 3.5. I would gain 0.2. And I could even do, okay, what about say 15,000? 3.7. I'd gain like over 10% here. 4.7, 15%. And 4,000, I would even be more. So I could say, okay, how about do 16,500 or 16,000 even? Oh, I'd gain 0.7 over 20%. Oh, I gained 3,000 over 20%. And now I'd have a spot of, well, this is where the negative comes into play. Where I'd have an extra Litecoin and an extra 5,600 from the time I'd start if a situation like this were to come up, thus making profits. But when it all comes down to this, this is a video game. It's on a computer screen. It's got numbers. I've showed you a whole bunch. And within it, what we are seeing is you got scores, like a lot of games do. And when you get to situations where you're just doing two coins against another and they all go up immaculately, what I'm going to be doing is, at least in this DGB VLTC game, sell them both. And then now Bitcoin goes in my hardware wallet. Because if I have a situation where I see Litecoin going to 225, 250, and then I know it's going to go back to like 150, 140 kind of deal, great. But if it doesn't, oh, it goes up to 350, 400, well, I'm just going to keep selling there, knowing it's going to go back below 2, and 160, 170, and so on and so forth. Oh, it goes to 0.1, and I hope it does, obviously. Then it's going to go to 0.025, or yeah, 0.025 after that. That's a 4x loss. And I'm just going to ensure that I play it right. And aggressively, I have the mathematics where I'm confident I'm doing it right. I guess I need the dollar chart to do it. No, I don't. I need this chart to do it. In fact, the dollar chart makes it harder. But I wouldn't mind more data. Problem solved. I've said this again, I'll say it again. As I'm playing this, the levels of sell are only starting to get to that level where I'm really looking for the nice, so this is going to be fun. That's 225 up to about this previous high at 350. Level 1 sell, which is the small level, the first boss of the video game. But in order to defeat the next boss, you need to have some good numbers. Hopefully along the way, from this to the next number, crossing back and forth with DGB, and same thing with DGB's number against Bitcoin as well, I can get those numbers higher as well. But the next price point, and this is too high, is referring with the 7 number. In here. And I know that looks inappropriate maybe, but scribbling I guess would look well. And even that looks kind of like, oh my goodness. So how about like around 65, 50, that's your medium boss in here. And in that, it would be medium sell. But at 0.1, and anything that can pierce above, it, to me, becomes, what's the best word for it? Overbought, out of hand. And markets are supposed to always do that, especially when they're free markets. And these ones show that they are. That they're going to go way overextended and way... And I know that's not the best term. No, the best term for why they are going to go way high is because of how many makers and takers there are. And until we can have confidence in exchanges, that to me it can only stay that way, where there's going to be more takers than makers. And when that's the case, price actions will have higher spikes up and down, which in trading, when you want to profit from volatility, is a good thing. But aggressive selling here means, oh my goodness, the profit potential, because when you have the availability to make big sales up here, and big buybacks in here. That's amazing. When you have the opportunity to make big sales here and big buybacks down here, that's amazing. Thank you for tuning in. Everything you do is your own risk, your own reward, but I'm assuming you're an adult. Or if you're a teenager and you're like 15, 16, 17 and oh man, you could have an advantage that a lot of people don't have, and that's the fact that you're young. And at that age, especially when you're 21, 23, especially 24, if you because at that age, that's when you're able to your brain increases extremely well. So your learning scale increases very well at that age. It stops at around 24, 25, like 23, 24 or so. Your learning scale really takes a decline lower for what your brain naturally does. The amount of words you can learn per day and the amount of things and advanced stuff that your brain can be able to handle and keep rising higher at the late teenage and early adult years is just magnificent. So at those ages, if you're able to uh, learn the mathematics at a very high level, because once you get to grade 9, 10, 11 math and you're starting to see like the stuff that you've already figured out, and we're just talking about like 30% moves here, and then on the short term long term buy, having one section where I do like this whole 40% move and this whole section of about 15%, and well, it's like, yeah, that's not all that advanced really, which is why I think there's a lot of ones that can do it. So if you're in that class, you're at a situation where I mean, this could be life changing for you, especially at the age that you're at. But uh, I would definitely think it's a good hobby for kids that age to get into because it's, to me, a productive, good thing as far as playing a game that can win. Because when you're playing Super Mario Brothers, which is what I played when I was that age, your scores didn't get you anything. I can take these scores of LTC that I own. I can take these scores of DGB and anything else and obviously turn them into Bitcoin very easy. But even not doing so, it's always good for me to know how much my portfolio is worth in the BTC. So my Litecoin is worth this much, my Doji is worth this much, my Bitcoin is that much. The sum added together is that. That's a score. And then you can easily take that score and multiply it against its fiat price. And there's another score, how much you have in dollars. Which means when I can take my points and I can go to websites on a computer, video game, and I can push buttons, type numbers, and then take some of my score of Bitcoin and even Litecoin, I can be like, okay, I'm going to take about 32 of my score and buy some XAG, XAU in the physical, gold and silver. And you get to the point, okay, well, let's just see what we got for it or how much we can get. And let's assume that the prices are doing very, very fantastic. After all, that's when we're more apt to want to take the aggressive stance, and you're more apt to have better increases in your portfolio when you're getting these great trades along the way with other currencies. So you take, we'll say, yeah, so 33, and let's just assume we're at the next level it came to before, say 377. You're like, oh, I got 12 grand. Okay, well, let's just assume that silver you can buy at say 16 and 50 for the kind you like. Oh, I guess I can get a monster box and a half. Maybe I'll get a monster box of this one kind, and I can get myself maybe 250 of another. You know what? That's a strategy, and that can be done in the video game and magically. Although it's not magic when you figure out how it's done. Days later, and maybe 2 or 3, ding dong, someone's at your door, or maybe you get a slip for you to drive to one of the UPS, FedEx, or whatever other stores you might have, or that's delivering it to you, and you got yourself some coins. Now, how many times playing Super Mario Brothers or Diablo, and I don't know many of the newer games, did you get things like that come to you when you did well? Or when you were winning Super Bowls in the Madden games? Did anything of major significance come in? And you paid for those games as well too. And you're paying for this game, and depending on how much you want to win, it's going to cost you more than it would like a PS4 or a 360 or whatever you have you. But if you want a good video game collection, because you want to play games all the time, you want to spend like 20 hours, 30, 40 hours a week playing video games, especially if you can make money doing it. We'll throw that last part aside because when you're buying an Xbox or whatnot, and you're buying maybe 10, 12, 20 games you like, and you're also talking about maybe getting a good television set, sound system, you can pay several $1,000s to get started. Cryptocurrency. Well, you're going to need, if you don't have your computer already, good monitor, good setup, good everything like that. Going to need a bankroll. Well, there you go. I mean, you get a pretty good bankroll for the same cost it would have for a very good modern day or even immaculate retro day collection. Thank you for tuning in and have yourself a magnificent day. Bye bye.